Hey guys, welcome back. Today I am so excited to review with you the new Hourglass Ambient Lighting Edit Sculpture Palette. So this is their holiday collection. This palette here has some cool kind of asymmetrical shapes to it to reflect, I guess, the sculpture theme. This is what it looks like on the inside. 3 of the 6 shades are new and available only to this palette. That would be the highlight powder here, the strobe lighting powder, and then this natural bronze light, which is a bronzer, and then this blush here called Vibrant Flush. It is a strobe lighting blush, is also new. The rest are repeats, and we're gonna do swatches for the sculpture palette, and then we're gonna compare it against the Ghost palette from last year. And we're also going to compare it against the Metallic Strobe Lighting Palette that was a re-release this year. This palette was originally released in 2017, and it was a limited edition. Then they brought it back early this year. So all beautiful products. I guess I'll just say, you know, no quality concerns with the powders in the new sculpture palette. As you can see, I think my face looks really smooth thanks to the powders here. So why don't we go ahead with the swatches. This is Dim Light. Blends almost right into the skin. It's kind of hard to see. This is Diffuse Light, which is the beigey shade. And you can see that a bit more just because I still have some color from the summer on my skin. And then moving on to the new lighting powder. This is a highlight, which they call Glistening Strobe Light. Glistening Strobe Light. And then the bronzer, Natural Bronze Light. This is the blush, Vibrant Flush, and that is a strobe lighting blush. And finally, we have Mood Exposure, which is a lighting blush. And a word on the naming. The difference when you hear strobe lighting versus just ambient lighting is that the strobe lighting formulas have more glisten and shine to them, whereas lighting still has that proprietary, unique Hourglass formula of being, you know, diffusing light and giving you a softer, more even, smoother look. So they all do that, but whenever you see strobe in the name, it just means there's like more shine and glisten to it. So you can see this blush here is just more shiny than the, you know, matte finish from Mood Exposure. And then this highlight, of course, has more shine and sheen than the two kind of finish powders. So next we're going to take the Ghost palette from 2019 and we're going to do some comparisons. So on the Ghost palette, there are also 3 new shades unique to this palette. It's going to be these bottom 3 here. And then on the Sculpture palette that is brand new, these are the new shades. And because from the Ghost palette, these 2 are essentially the same as on the Sculpture palette, and they keep reappearing year after year because they're kind of like the staple finishing powders. You can get them as singles. I'm not going to swatch them, they're exactly the same, but we will look first into the highlighter from the palette. This highlighter from Ghost is Iridescent Strobe Light. This is available as a single for purchase. So Iridescent Strobe Light right on top of our highlight from this year. So this is deeper in shade, this is lighter and has kind of like a pink undertone to it. And then the bronzer is Eternal Bronze Light. I would say the bronzer from this year is also warmer than from last year. Then we have the Strobe blush. This is called Iridescent Rose. Right under the Strobe blush from this year, this is definitely much more pink, and the Vibrant Flush from this year just right on top. They're kind of on top of each other, but you can see a little bit of it. That's a bit more subdued. And then we have Sublime Flush. Sublime Flush and Mood Exposure look similar swatched, but I would say to the naked eye, definitely Sublime Flush is much brighter, much more pink, and Mood Exposure is kind of dimmer and moody to the effect of the name, and you can definitely see the difference when they're placed side by side. So those are the two. And you can think of the Sculpture palette overall is more medium to deep skin tone friendly than the Ghost Edit palette. I would say that is true. Now, I don't know for deep skin tones just how well the palette works. So if you have this palette, you have deeper skin tones, I'd love to get to know what your thoughts are on this. It seems there is a way to go before, you know, we get some products that are truly very universal for all different skin tones. Now that we've compared the two holiday palettes, let's take a look at the Metallic Strobe Lighting Palette. These are beautiful, and they are just shining, shimmering, blinding. Look at the difference between these three highlights versus the two highlights I swatched up here from the Sculpture and Ghost. But look at that. Amazing, amazing. Oops, sorry, that one was just on top. But you can see why these are called metallic strobe highlighters, whereas the two here are strobe light highlighters. So the metallic ones are much more shiny, reflecting, impactful, whereas I guess the sister version of it is softer and it's lighter. It's probably more wearable on the everyday. You take out the metallic strobe palette when you're going somewhere and you're like, I want you to notice me, I want you to see my cheekbones, that's for sure. So I have some more thoughts about, you know, all these products, how they compare against each other, and overall what I think of the Sculpture palette after the demo. And before we head on to the demo, I do want to talk a little bit about the Edit palette that also came out at the same time as the Sculpture palette. So the Edit palette has 4 shades that are completely different from what's in here. I'll throw a picture up so we have a reference while I'm talking about this. And that palette is made up of 4 shades that have appeared previously in a 6-pan holiday palette. It has a bronzer, a blush, and from the product description, it says there is a metallic strobe highlighter. I'm not sure if that's a typo on the website or if that's truly the case. And I also have not gone into stores to check for myself, but if that is the case, that's excellent, because I do think these metallic strobe powders are a whole different experience from anything in these palettes. It's just part of the, you know, lighting powder family. And so that 4-pan, if you don't have any of Hourglass's powders, will give you, you know, a real nice sample at $58. That's what it retails for US, whereas this is $80. That's just something to note. And I decided not to get it because I already have the metallic strobe palette, and I feel like because these, you know, these 3 shades here are new, I opted for this because I just wanted to see how it compares to the other 6-pan that I have, and, you know, maybe at a later time, I might just make the dye for that one. Anyway, let's head on over to the demo. My eye makeup is done, my foundation, concealer, all of that is set. I'm going to take this fluffy brush and we're going to go into these 2 powders here, and we're adding that all over the face. I pretty much use both of these interchangeably. I find that it doesn't really, you know, impact the color or as it appears on my face, because this is deeper than obviously this really light beige here, but when you combine the two, they're so sheer and light, I don't really notice a difference. Might give me a hint of like pink tone or just warms up your complexion a little bit, and I'm just fine with that. I don't know if you can tell very easily over camera, but in person and when I look with the finishing powders applied, you can see these small specks of shiny, like, it's not a sparkle, it's not glitter, it's just like this little sheen. And what it does, these formulas, they're made to reflect light and diffuse light in such a way that it gives you a softer complexion and makes everything look a little smoother. Next, I'm going to put each one of these blushes on each side of my cheek. So I guess we'll start with the brighter blush here. This is a brand new blush. This one is called Strobe Blush Vibrant Flush. Whereas the other blush here, this is called Mood Exposure. This is a matte finish. So we're gonna go into Vibrant Flush, and I'm adding that to the right side of my cheek. This is what it looks like up close, and you can definitely see that sheen or that satin finish there. With Mood Exposure, we're adding that to the left side. So Vibrant Flush versus Mood Exposure. I think they're both beautiful, and like this, it almost looks the same, but always up close, you can definitely appreciate that this has kind of the glittery, glistening finish over the matte. And then moving on to the bronzer here, this is called Natural Bronze Light. And we're going to add that to the hollows, just lightly. I'm gonna buff this out some more. And then finally, we're taking this Glistening Strobe Light, which is a highlighter from the palette, and adding that to the high points of the cheeks. So this is with the highlighter, without. For lips, I saved it for last because I just wanted to see what was the finished look before deciding on a color. And at first I thought, oh, we'll definitely go with something nude, but now I'm thinking I want a bit more pigment and see what that looks like. This is a cool tone eye look using Natasha Denona's Glam palette, and I feel like I have a lot of good color on my face thanks to the Hourglass palette. So we're actually gonna go for a matte look today. This is a Korean brand called Ink Airy Stick in shade 2, which is Pink Milk Tea. What I like about these lipsticks is the velvet matte finish, so it's like soft matte, and then on top of that, they're lipsticks, so they're supposed to be pigmented, but you don't get so much color that it takes away from that soft finish effect. So I really like this. It still looks natural. There's a good amount of color. With these lipsticks in particular, the whole idea is that it's your lips but better. You know, it's your lips but a little bit more pink or a little bit more nude tone. So there it is. And here is the finished look. to receiving the Sculpture palette. It's been some time since I've gone into any of my Hourglass powder products, simply because I've been trying on a lot of new makeup, and which includes finishing powders, setting powders, bronzers, blushes. If you have been following my channel, you know what I'm talking about. And now that I have a full face of their products, basically, you know, any of the powders on top of the setting powder, I'm reminded, you know, what's so special about these powders. They truly do soften your complexion. They smooth everything out. They diffuse the light in just a way that is very, very flattering. So I think it looks just really beautiful. I have no concerns or questions about the quality of the formulas. It's the same that we're used to. If you're thinking about getting this palette because you don't have any Hourglass powder products, or you don't have a 6-pan, I would say yes, I think this is worth it, especially if you one or two of the blushes, or it's the bronzer and the highlighter that catches your eye. You won't be disappointed. Now, if you're trying to decide between the 6-pan and the 4-pan, I would say get the 4 because it has, you know, some of the most favorited popular shades from before that they're bringing back. And so that one is going to be really good too. And you can choose, of course, to get them both if you don't have anything from Hourglass and you just want to go straight into it, try everything. I think these two combined will just give you the entire picture, the entire experience of what these products are like. And I do appreciate that they have 3 new shades with this palette. Last year's palette also have 3 new shades in it. They could probably switch out the 2 finishing powders, the diffuse light and the dim light. So these two here. Appreciate the highlighter and the blushes. I don't have any single Hourglass products actually, but if I were to get anything, it'd probably be a blush, and I don't have any of the singles blushes either. So I appreciate blushes even though they're repeats. But I feel like these two here, because they appear year after year after year in this kind of holiday 6-pan palette, we're probably due for something new, and also perhaps something that is medium to deeper skin tone friendly as well would be great. However, I do want to say this certainly, as we saw from the swatches, overall medium to deeper skin tone friendlier. And a final word on the packaging, I much prefer this gold packaging to the silver one. That's more of a personal preference. The Ghost package from last year has this clear plastic all around, and I think they've gotten a lot of feedback and they've heard the same thing, that people just find it not as attractive. So this time, you know, it's covered. It's kind of chrome all across. Even the metallic strobe powder palette is silver, but it has that, you know, all throughout. I'm happy about that. It's substantial. Imagine giving this as a gift for the holidays or for someone's birthday. Looks much nicer like this, feels much nicer than this, even though the quality of the product is the same for both palettes. And final note, the 2 finishing powders here are not setting powders. I've tried it before as a setting powder, and it does not hold your makeup like a setting powder would. I mean, it looks fine for the first hour or 2, and then you see your makeup starting to kind of break apart a little bit faster than you expected normally. Interestingly, I could see some of the oil coming through, because a mattifying setting powder will absorb oil throughout the day for you until that itself breaks down. But these don't do that. So just to note, you'll have better results if you set your makeup and then apply these finishing powders on top. And that's all I have for you guys. I like the palette. I'll be using it more now that this will be sitting on my vanity for a little bit until the next thing comes up. But until then, see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye.